Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 280, 280 for those of you keeping track. I'm glad that you're back. If you're, a regular, if you're brand new, welcome. And always hit the like. Why wouldn't you hit the like? Subscribe, and that help us out with YouTube and all the algorithms and all that stuff. Raging Verbalist, I talk about a variety of topics. Don't steer off much into politics, but whatever is hitting my head and hitting my fancy. This is a special episode for those of you who are keeping track. And we have an announcement, so you want to stick around to the end. Now, with me, as always, to ask me questions and ply me with what is going on is the ever lovely Sandra. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, it's this is one of those episodes, bittersweet, but sometimes bittersweet chocolate is good, and that's the way it
That's
goes.
right.
So,
That's right. That's right.
so, so what are we talking about today? What are we talking about?
All right, so it is Memorial Day. So give me some information on Memorial Day.
Well, so Memorial Day, and I think it's funny because people have kind of turned this into the first, at least in the U.S., and because last week was Queen Vicky Day in Canada, so they had that, so they had their day, but we call it Memorial Day as a first 3 day weekend. Kind of kicks off the summer. I always was didn't like the fact that I still had to go back to school. You get the 3 day weekend and then you got to go back to school and you got to count down the days and, and all of that stuff. So fact is that this is like the kickoff for summer for a lot of people. And it's kind of interesting. There's lots of things going to happen this weekend, which we'll get into in a minute.
And what are you going to do for Memorial Day?
Well, actually, the first thing to kick off this great Memorial Day weekend is that tomorrow is my actual birthday. So we're going to have a little birthday celebration. So we're going to do a little of that and have a couple friends over and have a nice meal and do all those things. So that's what I'm going to be doing to kick it off. But actually, Sunday is the Indianapolis 500. I harken back to waking up as a reckless youth and my father being in the garage. I guess we would call that a man cave today, but it was like, yikes, it wasn't a man cave like they have today. And he would be sitting there listening to the race on the radio. And I always remembered that. And of course, when you're a young tyke, isn't that a nice word? But when you're a young tyke, the last thing you want to do is sit around and listen to a race. But my father would kind of tell me what's going on. And then you get bored and you leave. But yeah, I'll be watching the race on Sunday, and then Monday I'm back to working. I have stuff that has to get done. So how about yourself? What fun things are you doing this weekend?
Yeah, so it's kind of a whirlwind of stuff, I'd say. We will stick to our usual tradition of going out to the cemetery, laying flowers for loved ones. There's a few different ones, and they're several hours apart, so that'll take up some different time. So that'll be, I'll go to my parents up on the family farm and go to that cemetery with them. And then I'm leaving after this. So busy, busy. I'll spend some time with them helping to take care of the 4 baby goats and 20 baby calves. And I've seen pictures and they are very cute. My brother decided that he didn't need his body decided against his will that he didn't need his appendix anymore. So he had a fun emergency room trip and hospital stay, and he's up there working the farm with my parents, and he's got 6 kids, and it's just kind of chaos up there right now. So I'm going to lend a helping hand. So I'll just kind of be here, there, and everywhere. And then Monday we'll go out to the other cemetery, which is like a few hours away. And uh, then I'll finally be back to work on Tuesday. So busy and crazy and don't exactly know what I'll be doing 100%, but there you go.
Well, and it is growing up. One of the things that we would do is we would go out to the cemeteries and do that. But now that I've long ago and far away moved away, so really can't do that. But I think it's a good thing to do, and also to remember all those who sacrificed and did things above and beyond the Call of Duty and aren't with us anymore, and all of those things. I think that's a good thing, especially as as you get older. I think you kind of have a more reverence for that, because you think, well, yeah, maybe if I'm nice to people, they'll remember me or something, but
Exactly.
so so yeah, I think that sounds like an interesting weekend. I mean, four little baby goats. That's got to be a handful. And then I know I've never been around calves. I mean, I've been on farms, I've been on ranches, but I've never been like in depth into it. So I'm sure there's a lot to it. It's not like the petting zoo, because the thing about the petting zoo is you get to leave. If you work at the
That's right.
they're going to need something all day every day. Every day's a work
Exactly.
day on the farm. So I understand that. So
Exactly.
well, this is the bittersweet part, which is that this is actually Sandra's last episode, show, whatever we want to call this. She's decided to move on. She's not moving to the great beyond. I mean, this is you know anything like that. So we've had 279 in the can. This is 280. So Sandra, have you had some fun doing these things?
Yeah, it's great. It's fun to get on here and rage with you. And unfortunately, you'll have to rage alone, but I'll be raging on in spirit. Again, not the afterlife, everyone. Still on Earth.
Well,
Learning new topics every week and, just kind of doing some research and diving in. Stuff like this is fun. It's always uh, good to do, and I recommend it to everyone. There you go.
so we'll be missing Sandra, but she'll be there and helping, and who knows, maybe we'll get her on a guest appearance somewhere down the road. Also, and that's why today was a little bit different, a little bit you know unique, if you will. So I just want to thank her for all of her effort and time when we originally proposed this. I was probably going to try to do one of these solo. As right now, basically, I'm on three different shows. Two of them are behind a paywall, and this is the only one that's really available for the public. And it was great because Sandra stepped up and years ago and just started helping get this put together. If you've never produced a piece of content like this or produced a show, you'll learn a lot. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. We picked a kind of a guerrilla style, if you want to think of it that way. We don't do a lot of editing. I just watched a YouTube video earlier today, and the guy had 3 minutes, and my head was hurting. I thought it was like the CIA trying to reprogram my brain for the number of cuts the guy did. And he saw, kept seeing his head do all these things. It's like, really, really. I mean, so you must really like suck at it or something. So anyway, I want to really thank Sandra for putting in the effort and learning how to do these things. We've had some wild days where we couldn't get the live feed to work. We and get this to happen and that to happen, and you know blizzards and all of the other things, tornado warnings, and my power going out. And it's funny, she's in Tornado Alley. I'm supposedly in like the urban world of Southern California. My power goes out like, I don't know, a 10-to-1 ratio to what she's had over the years. So thank you very much, Sandra. Really appreciate that. And any memories that you want to share, anything you want to just toss out there.
Oh gosh, kind of like you were saying, it's been a whirlwind over time. Just thinking back, it's like, let's see, we worked through COVID and the wildfires and speaking of power outages, my power went out one time recently for the blizzard. And I can't remember any other power outage, maybe one other time when they were working on utilities in our area at my other house I used to live in. So, so out of all the like 5 years or whatever when we started this, uh, yeah, my power's gone out twice. So you need to like call somebody up, get them to fix that.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, to me it's a matter of will, and it doesn't happen. So
Right.
So that's the announcement. Next week, if you're wondering what's going to happen, I am too. So we'll figure out what's going to happen by next week, but we will be back up and running. The show must go on. For those who don't know Sandra's backstory, because she's a little bit shy about these things. Not really that shy, but anyway. When I first met her at Freedom Fest many years ago and started talking to her and gave her my information, she promptly took that 3x5 card and put it somewhere, which has never been found again. And I didn't hear from her. Now that isn't that surprising. I've done that a bunch of times where I see somebody and I try to pick out somebody who's talented, and I believe Sandra's very talented. And then it wasn't until the next year that I walked up to her and she was there at Freedom Fest working at the bookstore. And the first thing she did was, what? What did you tell me?
I was like, I'm so sorry I lost your information. I was trying to remember your name and Googling random names. I'm like, I can't remember this. I'm trying to get in touch. So I was like, just hoping you were there the next year, and lo and behold. So whoops.
So it,
Key fact, everyone. Try and stay organized. That's my life lesson. Try and be organized.
well, and from there, in fact, that was when we launched the book, and I'll just shamelessly show the book. That's when we launched the book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes 3 to 5 years to realize it, position to win. It was actually at that event that we started showing it to people, and it forced us to change the title. And then just a few months later, Sandra and I started talking. And before I hired her, she actually comes out to the West Coast, and we meet at a Starbucks. So I end up meeting her mom and her aunt. And I mean, it's like,
My sister, she was there too.
it's like, wow. I mean, I don't know what these people think we're gonna do, but okay. But it was nice, and it was a good way to kick it off. And it really told me about the kind of values that Sandra has and how reliable a person she is. So really that was how we got this whole thing kicked off. And then of course we were, going to promote the book and launch the book in March 17th, 2020. Worst day you probably could have launched a book in the last 30, 40, 50 years. And we've held it together since then. So and of course, Raging Verbalist came about because we said we just need to have a platform and to get some of these things out there. So I would say that I would say that the most fun that I've had with this process is that Sandra has, and this I think comes from her working on a farm and dealing with obstinate animals and stuff, and just kind of using the electric prod to move them along, but to make sure that this happens, because there's lots of things that'll take place in my life, travel and other things, but we get it done. So without her, it would not have been possible to get it done and really get into a disciplined habit and going, well, we got to do this now. We can't put it off anymore because life intercedes. So if there's one thing I can say is not only be organized, I think it's a good one, but the other part is that to be disciplined and don't ever give in to the easy, which would be, we don't need to do it today. So any final words, Sandra, before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, thank you for everything. Good memories, good times, lots of learning going on with you. Lots of things to learn. This has been fun. I love making content, and so thanks for providing that opportunity. Because it doesn't even feel like work when you're having so much fun. So that's another life lesson. Look at us throwing all these life lessons out there today. And you guys thought we were just talking about Memorial Day.
There you go.
But yeah, thanks for everything and wish everyone well, and have a happy and safe Memorial weekend.
Excellent. Well, for myself, John Paul Mendoza, Doctor of Speed Selling, and for the last time, the ever lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist number 280, and we'll see you on the next Raging Verbalist. And Sandra, great luck, great success in everything that you're going to do, and keep us informed. All right, take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week, and have a great Memorial Day weekend. Bye-bye.